I would like to begin by inviting each of the panelists to briefly share their thoughts on, directly jumping to the questions, what in your opinion is the single biggest information gap limiting Arunachal Pradesh development? Is it access, awareness, digital literacy, institutional communication, or something else entirely? May I please request Meena ma'am to begin? What, in your opinion, is the single biggest information gap limiting Arunachal Pradesh development today? Is it access, awareness, digital literacy, institutional communication, or something else entirely?
Good morning, all of you. My name is Meena Toko, as introduced, and thank you, Alison Behna, for the question. First of all, considering your question, I would like to say, what is information? Information is a data. Information is an observation. Information is a piece of paper that is on the desk. Information is a piece of report that is lying on the machine, on the computer. And when we talk about information barrier or gap, that is creating barrier in the development of the Arunachal, right? And you have given options: access,
awareness,
and
digital
institutional.
literacy. Yes, institutional communication.
So, when we say information as a data, as an observation, as a piece of paper that is lying on the desk and report that on the system, unless it is not processed to a useful channel that is bridging the knowledge, that is bringing the knowledge, how to use it, how not to use it, what is the important of it, what is not the important of it, do's and don'ts is there. Unless you don't comprehend, you don't understand, that creates a big gap leading to the development of any particular institution, any particular state, any particular individual, or maybe say a group or a community. And when we say access, awareness, institution, and these are all the factors that is playing the ecosystem, that is sustaining the ecosystem, often information. So when these things are not connected, when these things are not accountable, these things are not taking the responsibility, these things are not reaching where it is supposed to reach, definitely it is creating a hurdle, a barrier. If it is reaching in a very corrective way, verified way, meaningful way, then it is useful, then it is leading to the development. If it is giving a virtual, if it is giving you a contextual clarity, if it is giving you a value retention, then there you can see a development, then you can see the barriers are cracking down. So by saying that, by stating that, what I am trying to say is that all the factors you have mentioned that play a vital and crucial role in bridging the development of a state. Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So as per you, all of these factors contribute in, that is creating the gap in Arunachal Pradesh development. Sir Pinkram, sir, what is your opinion in these questions?
At the very outset, thank you so much for inviting me to be the part of this brainstorming discussion, and I feel very privileged to be part of this discussion. As far as my opinion is concerned, I think we are empowered with a lot of informations. The issue, what you have said is, I think access to information is not a big issue in Arunachal Pradesh. We are, in fact, the market is everywhere, it is flooded with informations. What is lacking is, I think, the quality information, verified information, and the information which has balance, which is people-centric, which are of, which tries to build the gaps and which try to strengthen democracy, which helps promote innovation, which promotes equality. I think those are the informations which we feel is lacking in Arunachal Pradesh.
So the verified and true information that is creating the gap as far you think of, sir. Sir, what in your opinion, sir, Professor Arun, is limiting the Arunachal's development today?
Good morning. So, your question is related to the development of Arunachal Pradesh. So, development is not a small thing. When you say development of Arunachal Pradesh, it means all-round, wholesome development of Arunachal Pradesh. And in terms of polity or governance, we can see that any society has physical assets like land, water, all other resources. And if we see that a community or a society or a collection of people or a society gathers together and elect their government so that the government would facilitate the development, the use of these resources for the development of the quality of life of that particular society. So in Arunachal Pradesh, what do we have? We have a lot of rivers, a lot of mountains, natural resources, and we have a government in place to take care of this. And in the process, historically, government has created many departments. And because of the RTI Act and other acts, the data has been slowly being disseminated, made it public, open access to the people. And because of that, slowly, the power, the knowledge, the information has been transferred to the people. And based on that, people could process, digest the information, and act accordingly to improve their own quality of life. Now, when computers came into, there was a change. Now, all the paperwork began to be transferred into e-files. Internet technology came, internet connectivity came, Internet of Things came, and then slowly, cell phone and all other technologies came, and now we have a lot of access to information. But now coming to development, seeing the media, this and that, these are not very much related to development. Development data, the information, what is required for development is not easy. You cannot create so cheaply. For example, security, almost for security, for providing security, you need concrete evidence, you need concrete information that has to be systematically produced. Before it was through pen and paper, but now they have to install internet, they have to have a network of Internet of Things, sensors and all other things, and all the software and the hardware things in process so that you process all those things. Now when you come to development, every department of government of Arunachal Pradesh has to adopt the technology so that they can transfer, put all the data of their department in digital format and make it available to the public. Not only that, not only public, it is very much essential for the officers themselves, because officers, ministers, they are the decision makers. Publics, they don't contribute so much, they just obey whatever is given. For example, sir is an officer. But suppose you are on the secretary level cannot go up to the, suppose there was a file processing thing. So he cannot see all the files. But now, if it is made available in digital format, he can access all the information and take appropriate decision. In the same way, if the same information is made available to the public, they can decide whether the decision of the government is right or wrong. And they can voice they can raise their voice in favor or against the decision of the government. in this way, what I would say is that for the development of Arunachal Pradesh, first of all, I think the government has not totally invested a lot of money to translate paper knowledge, paper information into digital format. So that has to be, so that means you have not first created the information in the first place, leave alone the access. So when you create the, so I would say that for the developmental gap, you have to first create an ecosystem, a network, where all the information available of Arunachal Pradesh is made in digital format. And for that, it's not a cheap affair, it's a very costly affair. So I do not know how much the government is investing in creating digital information for the various departments. I do not know. But then, as a layman, as I meet many officers, as I go to many offices, I find most of them workers are still in the paper level. So first you have to create the information, and then comes access. And yes, I would also agree that many departments have started e-file, this and that, it's fine. But then, since on the other part, since it is related to the development of Arunachal Pradesh, as we know that Arunachal Pradesh is economically dependent on the center for about 80%. So most of that money comes from the central government. And most of our people in Arunachal, only 2% of the population are employed in government services. So 2% is very less. So most of the, so 98% of the population of Arunachal Pradesh depends on the funds that come from the central government. That means through central government projects. But where are the information about those projects? Are they made available to the common public? Or are they still hidden in some papers, files? So if it is not made available to public, how can public access or have a what we call equitable access and gain the benefit of the central funds in an equitable manner? So I would say that first, creating digital information, government has to spend a lot. This is the most important thing which I find the government has to invest on. And then, having created the digital information, then make it available to the public so that all the public can have access. And on the other hand, it will be very much beneficial for the decision makers who are on the top of each department of the government of Arunachal Pradesh. So I share that these two things we are lacking a lot in terms of development of Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, if we sum it up, as per you, it should be, the information needs to be digitalized and it should be accessible. So, sir, I would like to continue with you only. Now, since we are talking about technology and digitalization, sir, technology has transformed the world. Yet, geography in Arunachal continues to provide a unique challenge for our state. So, beyond internet connectivity, what practical technological innovations or digital ecosystems, as you mentioned, sir, can ensure that even our remotest villages have the equal access to quality education, healthcare, government services, and livelihood opportunities? Sir, adding on that, and what role can institutions like NIT play in making these innovations reach the grassroots, sir?
So it's a very practical question. So geography, we cannot make it an excuse, because every state, every part of this world, they have different geography, and geography is not man-made, and we have to accept whatever geographical region we are in. So we have to learn to harness the geographical region in which we are living in a very sustainable manner. So technology, especially information technology, is there to enrich, enliven, enrich the quality of life in a sustainable manner. For example, technology has come so the trees cuttings have come down, but then on the other hand, there are some other regions. In Arunachal Pradesh, connectivity is one of the challenges because of landside issue. And apart from connectivity, that the government has to invest. There is no other scope. Or government has to invite private partners, private players, private companies to invest in Arunachal Pradesh. For that, government has to make an ease of business. They have to relax the rules, and they have to provide incentives to the private so that they can come to the remotest of the villages to provide internet connection. Now, if you have the connection, but if you don't have electricity, we cannot, access, we cannot run. So, I do not know whether, I'm also a village boy, and electrical issues are, to be very frank, face a lot of electrical issues.
Even in cities we do
yeah,
here, sir.
no proper voltage. Itanagar mein aap dekh lijiye, Saturday, Sunday, almost every week we face this. And then in villages, like because of the work I am here in Itanagar, otherwise, look, if I stay in the village, every day we will face this problem. And now quality of education, as you say, like even like during the class, if you have, assuming that we have a good internet connection, but if we do not have electricity, the very basic thing which is needed to run this information era, if that is not there, then even if we have connection, the purpose is not achieved. So I would say that providing these two things is also a very big task for the government to do. So if they have if they do it, then yes, people can carry on. Because in the internet, then there are so many things for education. Suppose a teacher is there in the village, so he himself can educate himself. He can have continuous education about himself, how to improve his teaching methods, and how he can learn new things from developed countries, because developed countries put so many teaching materials on the internet. So by being in a village, he can self-educate himself to become a better teacher and teach the students. On the other hand, students also, they can self-learn, because they don't need to have to depend on tuition center or come to Itanagar or go to Delhi or some other place to learn so many things. So if that is there, he can learn so many things by being with his parents in the village, by being at his home in the village, by being with his friends in the village. He do not have to travel to a new city, a new state. So it will be very comfortable for that person. So in this way, if these two things are there, and when learning starts, then slowly the development will be there. So I think connectivity, government has to take care, and then uninterrupted power supply. If government can provide, that would be a great achievement.
Sir, is there any innovations in NIT, like we hear of IIT?
Yeah. I forgot to answer one of your questions. The role of NIT. So I would take this platform to introduce to you about National Institute of Technology, Arunachal Pradesh. This is an initiative of Government of India for the people of Arunachal Pradesh. In every state, there is one NIT. And this NIT is an institute of national importance. Now, why it's an institute of national importance? If you study the world, every economy, every country, they develop, and they take the status of a developed country because of engineers. Without engineers, no society, no country, no economy can develop. No military can develop. So engineering education is very, very foundational to have a developed society, developed country. Having realized that, after independence, the government of India started IITs. But IITs, it's an all India level. People have to compete at all India level, and only those who can make it to the merit, they get admission. But in India, if you see, there are metro cities, villages, very remote villages. Can a student studying in my village, can he make to IIT? Can he compete with a student who is staying in metro, Delhi, Mumbai? Unless he's very, very talented, it will be impossible for him to make. And most of these IITs, the people from metro, rich, educated class, they get into IIT and then they travel abroad. Having realized this, government of India started what is called regional engineering colleges. So the government of India divided India into various 6 or 7 regions, so that the people of the technological need of that particular regions are fulfilled. And then the government of India made that 50% of the seats into these regional engineering colleges will be reserved for the people of that particular region. So that, because if it is a remote region, the students among that remote region will compete and then get into that. They don't need to compete with the students who are from metro cities. So in this way, they will have an access to engineering knowledge. But then, after some years, government realized that it is not sufficient. Every state has to have engineering college. So the government of India, they started in 2007, they enacted the National Institutes of Technology Act, passed it through the parliament, and said that every state should have National Institute of Technology. And by that act, in 2010, the government of India gave National Institute of Technology to Arunachal Pradesh. So 50% of the seats, student seats, admission are reserved for the people of students of Arunachal Pradesh. So we don't need to compete with students of other states. We have to compete among ourselves. Get into it. And then tuition fee is free. We have to only pay the mess fee, monthly mess fee. Books are free. So it is entirely exclusively for the government for the people of Arunachal Pradesh. And the state government does not have to pay any penny for the maintenance of all the salaries, infrastructure development, all are taken care by the government of Arunachal Pradesh, government of India, Ministry of Education, Department of Higher Education. And then even for the faculty positions, 50% of the faculty positions are reserved for APSTs. So it's an opportunity for many of us who are like pursuing PhDs in engineering. And the quality of NIT is that to be a faculty of NIT, the minimum qualification is PhD. And the minimum teaching experience is to have teaching experience in central government, universities owned by the central government or the state government. Private teaching experiences in private universities will not be counted. So that is the quality of NIT. So in this way, government has reached to us. And in this way, slowly now, these days, many AE exams has happened. Many of our students have made through this, and many have even gone abroad. So in this way, NIT, through their teaching experience, slowly is reaching to the people. And many poor students from very remote villages, they are able to make to NIT. So NIT as such, we might not be directly able to reach to the villages, but then we are facilitating that people from the remotest of the village, if they are talented, if they are hardworking, they can come, and then we train them, teach them, and then we release them into the society so that they can contribute to the society. Thank you.
Hello, अभी आ रहे हैं. Okay, thank you. I think ये light का वजह से थोड़ा glitch है. Okay, thank you Arun sir for sharing your insights and telling us about NIT Jyote also. And since we are running in constraint of time, I request all our panelists to let us keep the answer brief and relevant to today's topic. So technology can definitely provide possibilities, but sir, Mr. Pinkap sir, directing to you, from an administrator's perspective, hello, okay, from an administrator's perspective, sir, information is only valuable when citizens can access it, trust it, and act upon it. That we
I think from administrative perspective,
Okay, so, let me just finish my question. So sorry. And like, what are some of the biggest challenges district administrators face in communicating government schemes, emergency advisories, and public services, particularly in remote areas? And how can digital governance become more citizen-friendly without excluding those who may not yet be digitally connected? Sir, my questions is always directed towards the remote side because we all are connected, and we, even in previous discussion, we have spoken much at length about it, that we are in excess of information. But I'm concerned, I want to know in this segment, what are we doing for the remote part? So, sir, what challenges as a district administration you face there, and how those who are not digitally connected are, like, can be taken into account, sir, please?
thank you so much, ma'am. Since I'm coming from one of the most remotest district of Arunachal Pradesh, that is Kurungume, I think the biggest challenges that we as administrators face in the district administration is are the poor internet connectivity, difficult terrain, language diversity, low digital literacy, limited last mile infrastructure, at times misinformation, and also inadequate coordination amongst the stakeholders. I think those issues can be addressed by strengthening the community services and by mobilizing the local institutions, by ensuring that we have a multilingual communication channels, and also by ensuring that we have traditional outreach programs, and also so that we are able to deliver welfare schemes like different under education department, health department, various department, and also by ensuring that what called emergency alerts are set at the fastest possible. Like very recently, yesterday also in my district, there was one man who ventured into a river, Kush River, that is just before reaching coloring headquarters. And he was there, he got trapped there, but then because of this information, digital information, we could rescue him instantly then and there without letting any harm caused to him. It took time just 20 minutes or 30 minutes to reach that particular place. So therefore, but there are same places like in my district, like we have a Polosang, we have a Panyasang, like we have a Pangcho Waka, Taksang, Lemecheng, and Mechuka. And Mechuka is of course this thing. It is connected with, we have so many remote areas. Those institutions, those stakeholders are to be strengthened, communities are to be mobilized so that less harm is caused, there is a less economic loss, and what called loss of life is avoided. So I think that poor internet connectivity needs to be addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Very well explained. So, sir, there should be community services, and there, since we are having different dialects, so the proper communication should be done. And, sir, what you have said is yesterday's this thing you have shared with us is very, it's very insightful, sir. So thank you for sharing that, sir. Ms. Meena, I would say that now coming to this part, that we know that governance and technology can create opportunities. But empowerment also depends on ensuring, now again I will come back to the point that none of the citizen in Arunachal Pradesh is left without information, without credible and meaningful information at least. And you have consistently advocated for women's empowerment and greater public participation. So from your experience, where do women and young people in Arunachal Pradesh still face the greatest information barriers? Is it in education, healthcare, employment, entrepreneurship, or civic participation? And adding on to that one more, and what can government, educational institutions, civil society, and the media do collectively to bridge those gaps?
Thank you. What I understood from your question is that you're talking about governance, then you're talking about information, then as a tool of governments, then you're talking about information barrier. It's giving a gap for the youth and women to progress further. This is the question, right? So when we talk about taking information for the part of governance, you have to understand information is not only a tool for the governments. It is about to give a meaningful knowledge which fuels the vehicle of opportunity leading to the development of the citizen. Their right to understand what is information, what this information is up to. Okay? And it is about giving you a contextual connectivity. It is about giving you as I said, value retention. It is about giving you an ownership. It is about giving a capacity building. What do you mean by value retention? Economic development, contextual connectivity, infrastructure development, capacity development is human resource development. Ownership is you are owning the institution of all the varied information. And how you are asking, how still is there any barrier that is keeping the youth and the woman away from getting the benefits in terms of accessing the health center, education system, or maybe say employment section?
Correct, ma'am.
हाँ, तो उसमें क्या है? You have to understand, if you have an information, and I believe, and I assume, and I'm confident, there is abundant of information which is there, which is flowing. But the thing is that it becomes cheap. It's become useless when you cannot understand knowledge, make it knowledgeful. For example, you have to write an example. You are talking about education. You have to write an example. You have an information. कि हाँ exam लिखना है. You have to attempt this particular exam. But you do not know how to prepare for it. How to prepare for it. You do not have the basic data, basic context about that particular example, of a particular examination. The best example is Shiomi district, which is digitally disconnected. The students there receive the information which leads to the knowledge which gives the opportunity to write the examination very late. You're talking about remote areas, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So, Shiomi district. And another barrier you are talking about, another example is Upper Subansiri. My brother Nalo is from Upper Subansiri. He must be knowing when there was this epidemic period was there, COVID-19, the information of the epidemic reached very late. And the person, the authority, the concerns which have to deliver the service also reached very late. The victim could be woman, the victim could be youth. Why? Because they didn't utilize the available data, available observation, available context in a proper way. So these are you have given healthcare and education. In other part also, now bringing it to governance that leads to the development. Amartya Sen said, giving a little tint of political policing, Amartya Sen said, the economics, the great economist, when we talk about governance, how does information become a barrier for the youth and the woman or maybe a general mass? He said, development is a freedom. Development is an expansion of the freedom. It's an expansion of the freedom for every individual, group, community, or a state. They want to live a life that assure and assume value. What is those assumed value? Freedom from social restriction, limitation. You get a, not getting into that, I'll say freedom. What freedom? Social freedom, economical freedom, political freedom, transparency, connectivity, protective safety. These are the things. If you're not getting this, then how do you see the barriers to be broken, and how do you identify the barriers, the hurdles? That is very much for the youth and the woman there. If you're able to identify this, then your question is very much relevant on this conclave today. So you tell me, my dear friends, do you identify the freedom, the development, which in expansion of freedom? Do you identify all the factors which I stated? If it is there, you are free from all hurdles to reach, to get access better healthcare, to get access better education, to better institution of knowledge and opportunity. If you're not, you as a youth, I as a woman, you as a woman, she's there, he's there. So you tell me, are you still entangled with those factors? If you are free from those, then you are very much free from the hurdles and the barriers. And if you have knowledge, knowledge is what? Knowledge is something that is, which leads to the education. And it is very much the greatest foundation to break all the barriers, all the hurdles that is attached with the so-called, the concept of information.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Thank you very much.
Coming back to today's topic, yes, you have spoken very well, and we have understood every word that you are trying to say. But, ma'am, I'm trying to understand, do we still, the women counterparts, they still lack information unlike the men? Do you see that, especially in the remote areas? Is there differences between the men and the women when it reaches to information in terms of education? Do we still see that, the parents give preference to male child when they are, when they have to make a decision between two children? Do we still see that in terms of Arunachal? Of course, I think that has been largely this thing. But as per you, ma'am, actually my question was that, so information is reaching to them in a right way, and they are accessing everything equally. There's no gender biasness, ma'am.
That is why I'm saying I have stated 4 factors. Have these 4 factors have reached the youth and the woman? Reached the youth and the woman. Today, what is the sex ratio of women and men? Women are more. But I'm again asking, have the factors I have stated that reached youth and the woman? If it has not reached, then you are still part of the information barriers which is keeping you behind. Getting it? It depends on the individual. It depends on the individual institution, individual community, individual group. It depends on that. If the factors, you are exercising the factors which I have mentioned, the contextual contextual connectivity, the value retention, the capacity building you feel inside, you have the ownership on the channel of the information. You connected it to the information. If you have those, you have exercised freely on those, then you are above the barriers. If you are not, then you are below the barriers, you are still suppressed. The channel of your information leading to your knowledge is suppressed, be it is on the gender perspective, be it is on the perspective of woman as a youth or man or as a housewife or as a teacher or as a politician or as an administrator. Hope you understood it. Little bit of Amartya Sen.
So, ma'am, wish not to provide a clarity today, it seems. She has left the topic to us. Moving on, in digital age, we all agree that information travels much faster than ever before, but unfortunately, so does the misinformation. And coming to the recent public discussions and citizen movements, slightly touching that topic, across the India remind us how important, timely, credible, and responsible communication in any democracy. So without referring to any one specific issue, what principles should guide the flow of information between citizens, institutions, the media, and government so that public discourse remains peaceful, informed, and constructive? For this, may I request Pinkap sir, you proceed with the answer, sir. This is a general question for all of you.
In my opinion, the flow of information should be guided by accuracy. It should be guided by transparency. It should be guided by accountability. It should be guided by respect. And it should also be guided by inclusivity. And I think citizens, institutions, medias, and the government need to encourage fact-based communications. What we see, these many people were also referring this morning, earlier speakers also, that what we are seeing is that ethical journalism is lacking. We have to agree. I think our media friends, we have to agree that ethical journalism is lacking nowadays, what we see. And media literacy is a must. I think, don't feel bad. The easiest profession in today's age, especially in our state, is to become journalist. Anyone gets a camera, holds a mobile phone, start recording. It has become one of the easiest professional, what I feel is. And I think ethical journalism is a must, so that we are able to constructive dialogue. Because these principles, what I have said, strengthens public trust, counter disinformation, and ensure democratic discourse remains peaceful, informed, and respectful.
Thank you, sir. Professor Arun, if you would like to add on that, what should be the flow of information between citizens, institutions, the media, and the government so that public discourse remains peaceful, information, and constructive, informed?
So, the flow of information is governed by, the principles are laid down in the Constitution of India, the fundamental rights, the right to life and liberty, freedom of free speech under reasonable restriction. So, this is the basic article of the Constitution which guides all the IT Act and other, like even you have Media Act. So, this is the basic foundational guiding principle. Now, being a part of the society, I have observed that laws, there are so many laws, there are so many principles, but then implementation is the question. Like you have your own association, but as Pinkap sir said, anyone can pick up and think, yes, but then how do you have the manpower to regulate? You might have already made laws, very good regulations, rules, but then the question is, the challenge is, how do you implement? And it's almost impossible to implement. So even to discuss this, I think the government also has to scratch its head. Like, how do I implement this, control the flow of information? So it's almost impossible. And even so this chaos, this as the rise of electronic equipments, channels, media increases, I think it's impossible to, and then I think the system has to self-regulate. That means people, like, he will pick up his mobile phone, make one view, his view. I will also pick up my own phone and make another view, like that. So there is called, in artificial intelligence, there is called swarm intelligence. So what is called the swarm itself controls the swarm. So if he only makes the video, but I do not make the video, then his viewpoint will dominate. But then since there is a freedom in the society, every one of us has to participate. So if we all participate, then we will counter each other. And then what remains is that if the majority view will remain, or not only that, the real matter, the real information, the real news will remain. And slowly, the fake narratives, fake things will fade away. Like as Nalo also said, like initially there are so many things. Like for example, even the authority who has to give the authoritative clarification, they are not functioning. So in spite of their non-function, the system is like that. That if everyone participates, everyone rise up, if everyone is active, then we will have then the flow of information will be channelized in such a way that only through accurate information will sustain and will rise, and others will be filtered out and be diminished.
Thank you, sir. Spinkap sir said that it should be ethical and not anyone randomly should pick up and make the information flow this thing. And as per Professor Arun, everyone should be given a democratic right. You can't curtail someone's right to give information. And also, if the government has the resources, sir, then they should form this thing and come forward and clarify. Ms. Meena, what is your take on the principles that should guide the flow of information?
Ma'am, we have a little time constraint, ma'am, so...
Yes, we are aware. We'll try to keep it short. We are almost coming to the end.
Principle that should guide the flow of information. What I feel is that when you restrict certain things, it has a consequences. When you let it go free, it has certain consequences. So I agree with two of my panelists and would say that everyone should be accountable for what is telecasted, what is reached the consumer and by the producer as well. It should be verified. First of all, it should be verified. There should be a responsibility. One should take the responsibility for airing information, and then one should be accountable, and then one should be disciplined, and one should be based on the facts. It should not be aired randomly. So these are the basic principles which I feel that the flow of information which is to be followed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So you can't control the flow of information, but each one of us should make sure that it is credible. Thank you, ma'am. Before we move to the audience, one final question, though I know we are running out of time. It is like, if you had the opportunity to introduce just one initiative that could transform Arunachal Pradesh over the next 5 years through better access to information, what would that initiative be? And I would like to listen first from the technology man himself, Professor Arun sir.
So as already discussed, the government, because we have given the mandate to the government to rule us and to facilitate so that we can do business, so that we can enrich our lifestyle. So the government has to take initiative first to create information, credible information. So that means government has to take initiative, every department, all its functions, and then have a database, and then whatever information is needed for the public, so that public can use that information to do their business, to improve their quality of life. So I would say that if for the coming 5 years, if government invests on creating infrastructure to create knowledge. For example, we have a lot of rivers. So Arunachal Pradesh, like Arabian countries, they have a lot of oil. So oil is their strength. So their richness is based on oil. In the same way, Arunachal Pradesh, we have river and tourism. So if government can create infrastructure to collect information about every river, and then if you have information, then you can create idea, oh, मेरा पास इतना information है rivers का. Then you can go to the World Bank and say, I have this much rivers. We have to, then the World Bank can do. So what I said mean is that in the same way tourism, we have a lot of opportunities. If government creates infrastructure to collect all the information, then make it accessible to the people, and the public also, when they have access, they will know, oh, just for example, I don't know what is going on in Tawang, but then I do not, on the other hand, government has not provided credible information about the potential, or the government has not provided any potential, the information about my village to the rest of the world or rest of the people. So if government creates infrastructure, then it will create a base by which the economy of like youths and all the people of Arunachal Pradesh can use this information to grow. So if government invests for the rest of the 5 years for creating such infrastructure to collect data, not even to process, first to collect data, it would be a very good initiative.
Okay, sir, so your suggestion is creating a database of information for Arunachal Pradesh. Pinkap sir, your take, sir.
If I had the opportunity to establish I take one initiative that would transform Arunachal Pradesh in the next 5 years, I would definitely establish Arunachal Digital Knowledge Network, through which all the reliable information pertaining to health, education, job opportunities, and innovations could be delivered to the public. And thereby, the inequality is reduced. Thereby, the step that we take is very inclusive, and it helps in sustainable development of the state. Thank you.
Okay, sir. And Meena ma'am, your idea would be?
5 years down the line. If you want to know that I express my idea, then it would be that you will see many helicopter, on the sky, but you need a landing ground. So you have an internet connection, you have a camera, you have a reporter, you have everything, but you don't have a institution to telecast that. Then that would be very difficult. And when I say institution, then I say Tadak Nalobai is an institution. My Alison Behan is an institution. The 4 pillars are not merely an institution. Our Arun Sir is an institution. Community-based organization is an institution. Where internet cannot reach, the individual can reach. So, stating that, what I mean to say is that I would like to strengthen the institution that which we carry in ourselves. That is research and development. Research and development. I would like to strengthen this part of research and development which generates information, knowledge, opportunity leading to the development of our state. Thank you very much.